Reclassifying transactions in QuickBooks Online. I guarantee you this will be the best video you'll ever watch in YouTube ever. So in good faith, I ask you to click like right off the bat. Hit like. I'll wait. Did you hit it? Did you click like? All right, I'll believe you. Anyway, my name is Hector Garcia. I'm a CPA and a QuickBooks Pro advisor, and I'm going to show you 4 ways to reclassify transactions in QuickBooks Online. Number 1, change one by one. Easy, you probably do that already, so I'll show you that real quick. Number 2, create a journal entry. That means I don't have to mess with each one by one and just make one adjustment, done. Number 3, my favorite, you're going to love this one. Trust me, it's worth watching the whole video for it. Change the categories in batch, and that's for end users or accountants, anyone. And then the last one will be the reclassify feature for accountants only. So the last one will be for accountants only. Let's jump right in. So we're in QuickBooks Online, and let me add some context. So let's say, for example, I'm going into the report section and I'm going into profit and loss, and I'm looking at my profit and loss report, and there's some categories there that don't seem right. Maybe some duplicate accounts, or maybe they're in the wrong category. So one of the things you could do is you can click on the total amounts of whichever one you're looking at. Like, for example, we got this one here called miscellaneous expense for $2,900. I can just click on that $2,900 and it'll take me to a detailed report. Just shows me all the transactions that were categorized possibly in the wrong category. So you can click on each one by one. You can click on each one and simply just change the account, the expense category, whatever is it that you're doing. So you can just change it easily, simply by just going through your list, selecting the right category, and clicking on save and close. So that's what I meant by changing one by one. You certainly can do that. Nothing wrong with doing that. I mean, that's totally legal and can be doable. The second option you can do is, I'm gonna go back to my profit and loss real quick. Let's say, for example, that let's just look at the report that we have here on the screen. Let's say that for whatever reason, this category here called advertising, 74.86, and there's a whole bunch of transactions in there, assuming there's thousands of dollars in there. That's in the wrong category. That should be under job expenses. So I could simply just make a journal entry. So I can take the 74.86 away from advertising, and then I can move it into job expenses. So let's do that. So I'm going to click on the create button on the top right. Then I'm going to click on journal entry, but I'm going to do a control click, because a control click opens up the menu, and then I can do a new tab. That way I'm not getting out of my report. I kind of want to stay on my report. So I'm going to switch over to the tab on the top part of my journal entry, and then go ahead and do it. So let's say that was going to be advertising, and then I'm going to get rid of it. An expense is a debit, so I'm going to get rid of it by putting it here on the credit side. 74.86, is that what it was? Let me just double check. Yep, 74.86, and then I'm going to move that into job expenses, and then I just simply click save or save and close, save and new, whatever. Go back into my report, and then click on run report because I want to refresh it. And then we're going to go down here, and we're no longer going to see advertising, or we're going to see a dollar amount of 0. So we effectively classified the entire category without paying attention to the details, transaction by transaction. If I click on that 0, I can still get the history of anything that was put in there, but then I see the journal entry taking it out. So that's technically a way to reclassify. Not my favorite, but it is truly a way of doing it. And as accountants, we end up doing that quite a bit. Now, the third one I'm going to show you, which is the one that I said will be worth it, will be changing the categories in batch. And this is available to any QuickBooks users. It could be an accountant or a regular end user. And this is a lesser known feature. It's been there for a while, but a lot of people just don't use it. So I'm going to click on the expenses button on the left side in the navigation bar. So I'm going to click on expenses, and then I'm going to be on the expenses tab in the top. And what you're basically seeing here, so what you're seeing on the screen, it's all the transactions that are in the nature of expenses. So bills, checks, credit card charges, that sort of thing. So I can actually come in here and just any particular one that I'm looking at. For example, this one calls quickly car wash. Let's say, for example, that was an automobile. That likely is automobile though, and that was actually something else. Let's say that was a bank service charge. I could simply just change it there, and that's it, done. It's just one click. I don't have to click save. I don't have to hit proceed. I don't have to hit close. Just change it right on this screen. Now, what's really awesome about this screen is the filters and the columns. So if I click on the right side with a little gearbox, a little small gear, I can actually pick and choose which columns I want to see. So let me get rid of them all, just so we can get an idea for what's in there. So right now I only got date and dollar amount, obviously not enough context. Let me click on that again and then bring maybe the right amount of context. So let me see, I want to bring in the memo. Sometimes that's useful. I'll bring in the transaction type. So let me know if it's a check, a bill, whatever. And I'll bring in the payee and the category. So I just brought those three in. And then because I turned them off and then back on, I'm gonna have to resize all of these columns basically by putting my cursor right between them and putting them in a way that they're workable, that I can work with it easily. So maybe this is the way. Another thing you can do is on the top of the screen, you can click on those little three bars and collapse your navigation bar, giving you a little bit more real estate. And you can hit Control plus, like I'm doing now, or Control minus to zoom in and out. So depending on how many you want to see at a time, how many you need to reclassify, that will be up to you, right? To decide, how zoomed in you need to be. Now, I'm also going to click on the gearbox and go all the way down and click on rows. And then I'm going to change that to 300. Let's say I want to see as many as possible. And then I'm also going to click on, let me click on that again and click on compact. So I change it to 300 and compact. That way I get the most amount of transactions kind of squeezed into this screen. Now from here, I can now sort by payee simply by clicking on the payee button. And then I see them all organized by payee. Now from here, really simple. I can take a whole bunch that are here by just basically clicking on the first and then clicking on shift on the button or hitting shift on your keyboard and then click on the one all the way on the bottom of the group that I want to reclassify in batch. So in this case, it was all of the chins, gas, and auto. I selected them all. Notice that I do have some inconsistencies on the accounts here. And then I can click on the batch actions button, click on batch actions, categorize selected. And then I can select the one true category where these are supposed to be. So let's say these are supposed to be automobile and fuel, and then click on apply. And then that's it. Once I scroll down, I will now notice that I have a consistency in all those accounts. The last thing I'll show you from this screen is this little button up here. That's the select all button. So I can click it and unclick it. That way I'll uncheck everything that I have. And I can start doing some filters. So for example, I can say, well, let's take a look at all the transactions that are inside our job expenses category. So I'll click on job expenses and then I'll say date for last month. And then I can click on apply. And that's giving me absolutely all my job expenses for last month. So at this point, I can then choose and change my categories from here. And then it's just as simple as clicking on the select all button I mentioned earlier, that little checkbox up there. And I would select all the transactions. And then I click on batch actions, categorize selected, and let's move it to a different account. Let's say that's advertising. And we'll select that one and then click apply. And that will send them or change them all in one shot. Now I'm gonna go ahead and sign off and I'm gonna connect as an accountant. So I'm gonna log in with my account. I am an accountant and I have a QuickBooks Online accountant account. And the way I know it's the accountant account is because I see that big green line on top of the screen. You're gonna see it once I finish logged in a second. So the big green line at the top lets you know you're logged in as an accountant. And typically you're managing multiple clients from here. So as an accountant, I can do something called batch reclassify, which is inside of the accountant's toolbox. So I'm going to go ahead and go into one of my accounts here. I'll pick one of these test files. And I'm going to go in and log in into this particular client. And then I'm going to do the same type of reclassification, but I'm going to use a different tool, a tool called Reclassify inside of the toolbox. So that right there, the little briefcase, you're going to click on that. And again, only the accountant or a person that has a QuickBooks Online accountant account can do this. So I'm going to click on Reclassify Transactions and I'll click on that. And that will take me into a screen in which I can reclassify transactions in batch. Now, really important, this screen is great. It's not as flexible as the previous screen where we can do all the filters and the sorting. There is certain things we can do here. We can sort. So I'm going to click on type, sort by type, click on date, sort by date, click on amount, sort by amount. That is available here. And there are some light filters here. Like I can come up here and select one of the vendors. if I happen to have one of those vendors in here that I'm using. So I can come in here and switch the vendors until I get the vendor that I want. Or I can click on all and then just select all the vendors. And here on the left side, I can click on the category, and then I have the date range and whether or not the accounts are part of my profit and loss or balance sheet. So yes, there are some flexibilities in this area in terms of reclassifying with this tool. Not as powerful as the other one, but there's a particular reason why you want to use this one. And the reason for that is because this one can also change classes. So for example, let's say I want to take all these Amazon transactions that I have here. I'm going to click here on name. I'm going to type Amazon, and then I'm going to click on the select all button. And by the way, that's only limited to like 50 transactions. So if you have any more than 50 transactions, that select all button won't work, but it will work on the preview screen. But what's really nice about this is not just the account that I can change. So this is down here in the bottom part. So it's not just the account that I can reclassify. So let me reclassify this to, let's say travel. But I can also change the class. So if you're using classes, by the way, not locations, but if you're using classes, and let's say, for example, I got multiple classes here for QuickBooks, in my QuickBooks file, I can then both do accounts and classes, or I can do classes only. So see, look, I just selected classes, clicked on reclassify, and I never changed the category or the transaction. I only changed the class itself. But I can also, at the same token, I could also change the account without changing the class. Again, you could do either one. So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. These are the 4 ways you can reclassify or change the category of a transaction. If you agree that this video was awesome, hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, add some comments below if you got some ideas or maybe some questions about some other creative ways to reclassify your transactions. Thank you.